Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be taking a look at BT10, and BT10 offers us lots of new and powerful cards to build and iterate on some new and existing decks. And today's deck I'm going to be taking a look at is going to be a brand new iteration of the Dark Knight deck. So the DarkKnightmon deck is a pretty powerful deck because it's a deck that always wants to have a constant board presence and use and reuse its level 4s and level 5s with a really decent level 6 to help round out what the deck is trying to do, and it has some really good synergy to try to help control and limit some of the opponent's actions as well, making it just a very versatile deck on how you want to play it. So with all that said and done, let's get into the actual deck profile. Starting off with the Digitama, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Pagumon. So Pagumon is still one of the best, if not the best, generic Digitama for black, and it has a nice inheritable on delete ability where we get to reveal the top card of our deck. If it's a black Digimon card, add it to our hand, otherwise it goes to the bottom of the deck, acting as a pretty decent consistency tool for when our Digimon actually get deleted, so that way we could try to gain as much value off of Pagumon as we possibly can. Next, on to the level 3s, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Monitamon. So Monitamon is going to be one of the deck's dedicated search tools, just because its on-play ability states that we get to reveal the top 4 cards of our deck. Add 2 cards that are black with Knightmon or DeadlyAxemon in their name, or with Twilight in their traits from among them into our hand, and then the rest go to the bottom, making sure that we could try to find our parts and pieces. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Chuumon. So this is just going to be an anti-meta floodgate card in the form of a rookie body to try to stop and limit some of the opponent's actions. The actions that Chuumon's trying to limit are during all turns that the opponent can't gain memory except by Tamer effects, shutting off some of their memory manipulating shenanigans. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Chikurimon. So this is the BT6 version of Chikurimon, and this is going to be a big security threat, or hopefully it's going to be a big security threat, because its security ability states that at the end of the battle, even though we won't be able to play this Digimon for free, we still get a de-digivolve 1 on one of the opponent's Digimon, acting as some form of control in the deck. And then the last rookie of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Chikurimon. So this is the brand new starter deck version of Chikurimon, and this is just another anti-meta floodgate card. What this card's trying to limit and reduce is during all turns, players can't reduce their play costs, so it forces the opponent to try to play their cards more fairly, because we have alternative ways to be able to play our cards that bypass this, or we could just digivolve on top of it to, well, get rid of it off the field, so that way we could utilize the abilities ourselves on trying to reduce our play costs. Next, on to the level 4s, I'm going to be running 3 copies of SkullKnightmon Mighty Axe Mode. So SkullKnightmon gets another new form in the form of Mighty Axe Mode, and this is, just like Cavalier Mode, also going to be counting as both SkullKnightmon and DeadlyAxemon. Then he himself has an on-play ability where we get to reveal the top 3 cards of our deck, add 1 card with Knightmon in its name and DeadlyAxemon or Nene from among them into our hand, and then trash the remaining cards. Then if we digicrossed with this card with 2 materials, then we get to delete one of the opponent's Digimon with a play cost of 4 or less, allowing us to not only search out our cards and play a level 4 for cheaper, but to also try to help control the opponent's field all at the same time. Then it has the Digicross 1 ability, where it wants to try to utilize SkullKnightmon and DeadlyAxemon when you would play this card to reduce its play cost by 1 for utilizing each of those. So ideally this is only going to be costing you 2 to hard play when it's perfectly lined up, making it just a really efficient level 4 to be utilizing. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of SkullKnightmon. So SkullKnightmon from BT7 is still one of the most important pieces to how this deck wants to function, just because its native ability and inheritable ability are still really powerful for us to be utilizing, especially with all of these new tech and tools. So its inheritable ability states that while this Digimon has Knightmon or Pagumon in its name, it gains security attack +1, allowing us to deal more damage easily onto the opponent, and we have lots of different ways to be able to utilize this card, not only just with our higher level Digimon, but with our alternative form level 4s as well, making him super valuable. Then for utilizing him as an actual card while he's on the field, because sometimes we are just going to have him sitting on the field because of how our level 5s work, he has a nice when attacking ability where we get to trash all of the Digivolution cards on one of our DeadlyAxemons. If it doesn't have any, then we get to ignore that part, and then we get to place it at the bottom of this Digimon's Digivolution source to Digivolve this Digimon into a DarkKnightmon from our hand for free, making it just allowing us to easily go into our level 5s to climb the stages as effectively and efficiently as we possibly can. Next, I'm still going to be running 4 copies of DeadlyAxemon, just because DeadlyAxemon is still a key important piece to just how a lot of our cards want to function. So it is another digging or searching tool where its on-play ability states that we get to reveal the top 5 cards from our deck, and then we get to add up to 2 Digimon with Knightmon in their name from among them into our hand, and then the rest go to the bottom. So again, there's just a lot of consistency going on with the deck, and this card is a really good inheritable to be using, similarly to our SkullKnightmon, where it has the inheritable ability where during your turn, while this Digimon has Knightmon or Pagumon in its name, then it gets plus 2000 DP, so it's just making whatever Digimon we're going to be using a little bit stronger. And then the last level 4 of the deck is going to be 3 copies of SkullKnightmon Cavalier Mode. So SkullKnightmon Cavalier Mode is actually a pretty decent Digimon with a whole bunch of different ways on how we could utilize the card. So similar to the brand new mode that he got, he's also going to be counting as both SkullKnightmon and DeadlyAxemon to make sure that we always have at least one of those cards to be able to use to their utmost potential with some of our various other effects. Then he can Digivolve for 3 on top of a level 3 Digimon, which isn't necessarily what we're trying to do. We're trying to Digivolve him for 1 on top of a level 4 Digimon, so that way we could utilize his when Digivolving ability more efficiently, especially in combination with our SkullKnightmon, where this Digimon gains the jamming and blocker abilities until the end of the opponent's turn, so that way we could try to have a very aggressively defensive Digimon depending on the situation. And then speaking of our level 5s, next I'm going to be running 4 copies of the brand new DarkKnightmon. So this brand new DarkKnightmon is an absolutely powerhouse of a card just because he has a lot going on with him. So he has an on-play ability where he gets to Digivolve 1 on one of the opponent's Digimon, and then if we Digicrossed with 2 materials, we get to delete one of the opponent's Digimon with a play cost of 5 or less. So he's just trying to shrink the opponent's Digimon down to be able to put it in deletion range with his on-play ability. Then he has a nice all turns ability where when this Digimon would be deleted, by returning 1 level 4 or lower black Digimon from its Digivolution source to our hand, we get to play 1 SkullKnightmon or DeadlyAxemon from this Digimon's Digivolution source without paying its memory cost. So just like the old DarkKnightmon, it's still trying to split apart its inheritable sources when it's going to be deleted, so that way we could utilize the on-play abilities or just have those bodies on the field to be able to reuse and reset up for various different things. Then he himself has a Digicross ability to try to be able to get his on-play ability a little bit more effectively, where it's a Digicross 2 utilizing SkullKnightmon and DeadlyAxemon. So when we use both of those, he'll reduce his play cost by 4, making him a level 5 at that hard place for 4, which is pretty efficient to be using. And then the last level 5 of the deck is going to be 3 copies of DarkKnightmon. So this is the classic BT7 version of DarkKnightmon, and he himself has an on-play ability where we get to place 1 SkullKnightmon and or DeadlyAxemon from our hand or trash under this Digimon's Digivolution source in any order. So that way we could try to reuse our level 4s as effectively as we can, because it pairs nicely with his secondary ability where during all turns, when this Digimon is deleted, we get to play 1 SkullKnightmon and or 1 DeadlyAxemon from his Digivolution sources suspended without paying their memory cost. So this way we could try to ideally split apart our Digimon, get their on-play abilities off, and just be able to reuse those Digimon right away to be able to go into the brand new Dark Knight or some of our other various forms and utilize him with some good combo play. And then on to the level 6s, I'm going to be running 4 copies of DarkKnightmon X Antibody. So DarkKnightmon X Antibody is a little bit of an expensive card, evoing for 5 on top of a black or purple level 5, while being a black or purple level 6 himself with 12,000 DP. Then he has the alternative Digivolution condition, where we could Digivolve him for 4 on top of a DarkKnightmon, so we could help make him even cheaper to play just for playing him the way he wants to be used. Then he has a nice when Digivolving ability, where we get to return 1 black or purple Digimon card other than DarkKnightmon X Antibody from our trash to our hand, so having some built-in recursion is always nice. Then when this Digimon has a DarkKnightmon or X Antibody in its Digivolution source, we get to delete 1 Tamer and unsuspend this Digimon. So it really wants us to aggress with our level 5s and then Digivolve from our level 5 into our level 6 to return a card from our trash, delete an opponent's Tamer, and unsuspend this Digimon. We also could delete one of our Tamers if we really wanted to, which combos with one of our Tamers, which I'll get into later, to help make DarkKnightmon even more playable. Then he has a nice on-delete ability himself, where we get to play 1 DarkKnightmon from our trash for free, so that way we could try to reuse our level 5s to get their on-play abilities off alternatively, to be able to continue the ball rolling and the aggression, because we're always going to be ideally having a body on the field. And then the last Digimon of the deck is going to be 1 copy of DeadlyAxemon. So DeadlyAxemon is the tech level 7 slot. It could really be any level 7 you feel like you want to use, just because this deck actually has some decent level 7 options it could be using. I'm just going to be using DeadlyAxemon just because it's fitting on color with the deck, just because we could use him recursively utilizing DarkKnightmon X Antibody's ability, on top of the fact that he can make himself cheaper for the opponent having a wide field of Tamers or Digimon, and acts as some really solid control that the deck doesn't have a whole lot of. So his on-play when Digivolving ability states that we get a de-Digivolve 1 on all of the opponent's Digimon and delete all of their Digimon that are level 4 or lower. So it's just, again, acting as some good removal with some good recursive removal at the end of the opponent's turn. Once per turn, we get to delete all of the opponent's Digimon with the lowest play cost to try to keep Digimon off of their field and force the opponent to really respond to this card or fold and die by this card. Next, on to the options, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Ultimate Flare. So Ultimate Flare is going to basically be the big hard removal card for the deck, because its main ability states that we get a de-Digivolve 3 on one of the opponent's Digimon, and then we get to delete all of the opponent's Digimon with a play cost of 3 or less. So ideally it's going to de-Digivolve them all the way back into a rookie, and then we'll obviously be able to delete that rookie because most rookies don't have a play cost that's higher than 3. Then its security ability activates its main, making it also just a really good security threat to try to deal with. Next, I'm going to be playing 3 copies of Pride Memory Boost. So Pride Memory Boost is a really powerful card for this deck to be using because it synergizes with basically all of our level 4s or below, where it has the main ability where we get to reveal the top 3 cards of our deck. We get to place 1 Black Digimon card with a play cost of 4 or less from among them onto the field for free, and then we get to trash the remaining cards and place this card into the battle area to use for its secondary main ability of Delay to gain 2 memory at a later turn, with the security ability of at least putting itself into the battle area so we could gain that 2 memory later to make more powerful tempo plays. And then the last option card of the deck is going to be 1 copy of Immortal Ruler. So Immortal Ruler is a 0-costed black and purple option card, where it has the ability where if we have a Nene in play, then we could use this card without meeting its color requirements, so we don't need to go all the way up into our level 6 or 7 to be able to utilize this card. Then it has the main ability where we get to trash the top 3 cards of our deck. Then we may play 1 DarkKnightmon from our trash by paying its play cost, and if a Digimon with a Digicross requirements would be played, then we also get to place cards from our trash as a Digicross material, so it's allowing us to basically Digicross from the trash, which is pretty powerful because we have some decent ways of setting up our trash to be able to make this card a really powerful card at just always having the ability to maintain a decent board presence. And then lastly, onto the Tamers, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Nene. So Nene is going to be the Twilight's general and one of the kind of key parts and pieces to how this deck wants to play. So she has the on-play ability that, again, is acting as a good consistency tool, where we get to add one card with Knightmon or DeadlyAxemon in its name or Twilight in their traits from among them into our hand, and then the rest go to the bottom. Then she has a secondary ability where during the opponent's turn, all of your Digimon with DarkKnightmon in their name or Twilight in their trait gain the blocker ability, and she has an on-delete ability that's supposed to combo with DarkKnightmon X Antibody to be able to gain 2 memory, so that way if we really wanted to with our DarkKnightmon X Antibody, we could pop a Nene to gain 2 memory to make it playing our DarkKnightmon X Antibody a little bit more efficient than it normally would be, but ideally we're just going to be sitting on a Nene to try to make all of our DarkKnightmon blockers. And then the last Tamer of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Izzy. So this is the BT4 version of Izzy, and this is going to be acting as the deck's dedicated memory fixer. So if you really wanted to, you could play any other memory fixing Tamer that you feel like would best synergize with the deck. I really like what Izzy's trying to do just because he's actually going to be one of the more efficient memory fixing Tamers for us to use. So he has a nice on-play ability where we get to reveal the top 3 cards of our deck, and if all of those revealed cards are black, then we get to gain 1 memory, which everything in the deck is black, so he'll always be gaining us that 1 additional memory, making him actually 3 to hard play instead of 4. And if he's tripped in security, then he also could take away one of the opponent's memory, acting as an anti-tempo tool at the same time. Then we get to place the cards that were revealed on the top in any order, so that way he could try to help rig the top of our deck for whatever effects and benefits we need to be utilizing him with. Then we do have a whole bunch of different tech and tools to incorporate into the deck to really customize it and change it up based on how you want to play the deck and what you want to gain out of the deck. So if you want to be a little bit more aggressive with your level 3s, then we do have some Twilight synergy that we could take advantage of, utilizing Sparrowmon as a really good level 3 to aggress with. Then on top of that, we do have the other Monitamons and various other rookies that we could be playing around with. The Monitamon package isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world just because it's already synergizing and playing around with other Monitamons and our Dark Knights already. Then we do have a hybrid that we could run as that alternative win condition just because hybrids can steal games and we're already trying to play and use our Tamers. Then, as a really good alternative level 5, we could play Chikurimon just because our DarkKnightmons already want to replay our level 4s, which could easily line up a Chikurimon play to re-go into a level 5. If you do plan on playing Chikurimon to go from a level 5 into the DarkKnightmon X Antibody, then you probably would need to run the X Antibody option card, but the fact that we do have Chikurimon to easily set up and line up our DNAs is really, really nice. Then we do have some really good tech level 6s that we could play inside of the deck. So if you wanted to, you could play Craniumon in the deck just because, well, Nene's giving all of our stuff blocker, and, well, Craniumon having blocker and having the protection ability for our blockers makes him a really desirable card as a supporting mega to sit on. Or if you wanted to, you could run Pagumon just because we could use DarkKnightmon X Antibody's ability to pop our Nenes, keeping the opponent's Tamers and cards around, so that way we could try to take advantage of Pagumon's ability to try to passively burn the opponent's security for them having a big and large field of Digimon and Tamers that they could be sitting on. And then we do have some alternative level 7s that we could dip into, so we do have Omnimon's Wart Defeat as a good security threat and Digimon to play around with the deck, and we do have Omnimon's Wart as another really good level 7 to help synergize with how the deck wants to play, just because, well, we could use him to be able to replay our level 5s and then gain the benefits of our level 5s again alternatively. He also has a nice when attacking ability that also acts as some good removal and adds our level 6 back into our hands, so that way we could again reuse our level 6 as well. Then we do have a whole bunch of different tech option cards that we can incorporate into the deck. So we do have Breath of the Gods to give our Digimon reboot and some extra protection. Then we have a card like Congo to try to stop it and stave off some of the opponent's aggression while stopping them from being able to recover as well. Then, as a good alternative removal option, we do have Iron Fisted Onslaught and various other hard removal cards that we could think about running, depending on where the meta is. Then we do have some really decent other utility cards like Black Memory Boost to try to act as a memory boost and another consistency tool. along with the use of some purple options just because we're already dipping a little bit into purple and we could play a purple Tamer to help set up our purple options. So we do have cards like Pandemonium Flame to try to help delete our Digimon to enable some really good and powerful combo play. Then we do have some different and varied black Tamers that we could utilize. So if you want to run a alternative memory fixer, then you could run the Black Tie from BT2. If you want to try to gain memory alternatively, you could run Izzy and Joe. And then as far as some off-color Tamers go, we do have the starter deck mat for when our Digimon gets deleted during our turn, if we're dipping a little bit heavier into that type of a strategy. And we also have the BT2 mat as a good way to reutilize some of our purple Digimon or option cards, on top of various other off-color Tamers like Hero and Kyoshiro to, well, do Hero and Kyoshiro things depending on what we're actually trying to gain out of our cards and what we're trying to look for. Then you also do have Analog Youth as a really good tech card to incorporate just because it's acting as a really cheap Tamer to use with a good on-play effect, adding some extra consistency, and its secondary ability interacts with our level 5s and higher being deleted, which is something that they'll generally do anyway, just because of how they want to play and how we want to aggress with them. So it's just a good card to synergize with our DarkKnightmons as well. But for the most part, this is just my interpretation of what a DarkKnightmon deck is going to look like in BT10, and I think this is going to be one of the more powerful decks just because it's one of the few decks that actually does have Tamer interaction, on top of a lot of different approaches. Whether you want to play it more aggressively or defensively, it could be teched to handle various different situations depending on what the matchup is, making it a very fun and flexible deck. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.